Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how
He's alive!
Welcome to where the weird ones are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is with Janet. She is the host of Deplorable Nation, a phenomenal podcast. You should definitely check it out. She's a fantastic person. I adore this woman. I don't know, she's just amazing. We became quick friends. Our minds seem to operate similarly. So I don't be surprised if we end up being in a compound together, making our own electricity, supplying our own, growing our own food, and shit like that. So just a bunch of houses around this veggie garden, and that's not depending on the government at all in any kind of way. That is my dream, at least at some point someday. But who the fuck knows? We live in crazy times. But Janet has some interesting experiences as a young lady. Um, and we do dive into a little bit like of the medium shit type of stuff. And then we kind of just like talk about today's society and the way the world is going, and some other things. But I hope you enjoyed today's episode. She's a phenomenal woman, very knowledgeable in the things that she talks about today. So yeah, I hope you go check her out. She's on all the socials and all that. Don't be afraid to reach out to her if you have a show and you want her on, or if you want to be on her show to discuss, you know, um, deplorable things. Uh, yeah, she's a good person. So 40 and Fest is coming up really fast. It's June 8th right here in Sanford, Maine at the Memorial Gym. So go to Facebook 40 and Fest and you can get your tickets there. If you have issues finding it, you can definitely reach out to Paranormal 5. That is Missy and Richie. They definitely can help you out in finding your way to the tickets. Um, Patreon just dropped story time number 2 with the lovely ladies from like Mother Like Murder, Heather and Rachel. Phenomenal ladies, phenomenal podcast as well. If you're into the true crime stuff, definitely go check them out. And if you're interested, the Patreon is only $5 a month. You get a free coffee mug, and you get the segments Conspiracy Tuesdays and story times. So this story time, I told Heather and Rachel a true crime story in like a murder mystery kind of way. I mean, I'm friends with them. They like me, so they gave me, they kind of blew up my head a little bit, like just kind of like giving me all these compliments on how I wrote it and stuff like that. But what's I hope it comes across as well as they took it. to as a listener would. So I hope you guys really enjoy the story. Again, it was a true story. I just told it in kind of like a story kind of fashion, where I didn't really give any information, too much information as who the killer was. So definitely go check that out if you're interested. Um, and what else? I just had a baby. She's a beautiful little girl, extremely healthy. Um, if she was awake, maybe I would have, you know, brought her on right now so you guys could see her. But uh, yeah, she looks exactly like me, and I feel bad for her. My older daughter also looks like me, and I constantly apologize to her as well. But it is what it is. So she was born May 3rd at 6:52 p.m. She was 7 pounds 4 ounces and 20 inches long. And she looks exactly like me and her sister. And yeah, I was pretty excited about it. I was pretty sure that I was done, but this came along, and it was awesome. It was great. It was a good experience, and she's home now, so that's all that matters. And yeah, yeah, I feel like being a dad is probably like one of the best things, one of the only things that I'm good at. You know, I'm not, you know, a great person, but I'm not. I don't fuck up as a dad. I feel like so. Um. Anywho, if you like today's episode or any of the other shows, please like, follow, share, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Leave a rating and review. That'd be fucking dope too. And if you want to, you can leave a rating and a review right on the website, which is where the weird ones are podcast.com. You get the blog, you can get the merch there. Eventually the hot sauce will be there, so there'll be 3 flavors now. I just perfected the 3rd flavor, and it is called green apple sizzle. So this one tastes like apples, and it's pretty hot. It's not super hot, but it's hot. The original sauce, which is the hot lemon squeeze, that one's fucking hot. So if you're in the area of Sanford, Maine, on June 8th, come on down, because you're definitely gonna get you. It's gonna be cheaper to get the hot sauce at the conventions versus the website because of shipping and handling and shit. So, anyways, still working on those logistics, and I will let you guys know as soon as I get more information. It's really hard to get to the store or the post office. There we go. To really talk to them and look at the different box selections and stuff. I had considered like making my own custom boxes, like with my logo on it and stuff. I think the best route is probably printing my own um, shipping labels. That's probably the best way to go about it. But eh, yeah. So thank you guys so much for being here. If you're interested in the Patreon, that's cool. If not, that's cool too. I'm just happy that you're here. Um, but that's all I got for you today. So why don't we dive into this with Janet? See ya.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird. Get weird.
what's going on, dudes and dudettes? This is Drewski from Cryptid Warfare and Conspiracies Podcast, and you're listening to Kevin on Where the Weird Ones Are.
Oh, it already started. Cool. There's no countdown on this one. All right. Well, welcome to the show, everybody. I'm so happy that you're here. Today, I have Miss Janet from Deplorable Nation Podcast. I had the pleasure of being on hers, and I had to have her on mine. We had a really lovely conversation, and I really adore this lady. She's so sweet, and she was sweet to me the last time we talked. So, um, I had to have her on. So, and she's also friends with Heidi. Those of you who know Heidi, Heidi doesn't get along with women, and this is one of them. So I definitely already like her. So, Janet, if you don't mind, letting everybody know a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Absolutely. And thank you very much for having me on. And hello to your listeners. If you don't know me, my name's Deplorable Janet, and I host Deplorable Nation Podcast. And I am a retired nurse and retired medical school teacher. And I was in the medical community for 30 some years. So now that I'm retired, I spend most of my time doing holistic things, making holistic products. And yeah, enjoy doing the podcast because I get to talk to awesome people like yourself.
Nice, nice. Now, for the listeners, Janet does her own dries her peppers and stuff, and we got into this conversation when I was on her show, because I was last minute trying to make some hot sauce before I went to Encounter Quest. No, don't know why I did, because I didn't sell very much of my hot sauce, which is weird for the South. Everybody, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I was down there and I'd be like, "Hey, you like hot sauce?" And they're like, "Ew." And I was like, "Really? Come on."
Yeah, if the people in the South, a lot of times, especially it depends on where you're at, but I
Mhm.
lived in Texas for a while and they eat ranch with everything.
Ranch.
Yeah,
Ew,
and
gross.
it's weird because a lot of places, like if you go and order like breadsticks with cheese or something, they're like, cheese, like grated cheese. And I'm like, no, like cheese sauce. And they're like, we got ranch, ranch on the pizza, ranch with the breadsticks,
Ugh. I
pass.
mean, I don't mind a little bit of ranch is okay. Like, I can't dip anything in ranch personally. Um, but like on pizza, like I can deal with a little bit with like the buffalo chicken
Mm-hmm.
pizza, but other than that, like if it's an overwhelming taste of ranch, I'm like, get it out of here.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, I like ranch, but it's not my go-to, especially for breadsticks or,
Mhm.
or like Bavarian pretzels or whatever. I don't want ranch on them.
Yeah. Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Um so real quick, what other than peppers, what other things do you like dry
Oh, I
and
dry
stuff? 'Cause
everything. I'm kind of like a prepper
yes.
for food and stuff for meals to make things easier. So
Mhm.
every kind of pepper you can imagine, onions, different spices. So cilantro, parsley, rosemary, all of that stuff. Mushrooms, anything and everything that I can dry and preserve. That way, I keep them in mylar bags that are resealable.
Yep.
So I can use those, but that way I always have things for soups or stews or, meals of whatever kind. So yeah. Plus I make all of my own spices. So everything I can dry, like garlic and all of that stuff, I dry that and then I'll grind it up in the coffee grinder and make spices. So
Nice. So
mhm.
what's the process of drying all this, like preserving your foods and stuff like that? Like, do you like put it on a dryer or
Yeah, I have a dehydrator that I use a lot.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
so, and it depends on what you're drying because I've dried, fruits like blueberries and whatever, and those take a really long time in the dryer that I have because I didn't buy like one of the $150 dryers or anything like that. I got like a cheaper one. Um, but it depends on the amount of time and, sometimes it's very time consuming because mine literally it's kind of small and it
Uh,
only has 6 layers to it. And so the trays are kind of small and you can't put things close to the center. So, but dry them and then, or, even if it's like dandelion root or things like that, you can air dry them. You can also dry them in the oven, but you tend to burn things a little bit more if you've never done it before. So that's why I like my dehydrator and just based on whatever you're drying, how long it takes. So
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Because I want to do like, because I'm sort of a prepper as well. I'm just not that in depth. Like I grow my own food or
mhm,
mostly my own food. Um, and I'm trying to be more of a farmer now. And
mhm,
I use YouTube and books to try and like
right,
teach myself all this stuff.
right.
And off the grid is eventually where I would like to go.
That's what
Um,
I think I would thrive doing that because I love, being outdoors and things like that. And like we were talking when you were on my show, we have an overwhelming amount of like dead nettle in our yard, which you can use for all kinds of um, medicines and tinctures and teas and things like that. And of course, dandelions. We have a bunch of dandelions, but we have all kinds of things that grow wild in our yards that people think are weeds.
uh,
Red clover, all of that kind of stuff. So you can actually dry all of those things as well. Um, mulberries, different kind of berries that you'll find like growing wild, even wild strawberries, things that you can grow. But even if you don't dry stuff, I've always been the type of person that would take like onions, peppers, mushrooms, things like that, and like chop them up and keep bags of them in my freezer. And that way, anytime that you want to make whatever, you just grab a handful out of the bag and put them in whatever you're making. So
it's a good
I'm
idea
all
too.
about making things a little bit easier. Sometimes meal prep takes a while, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If I worked less, I would, oh my God, the things that I would do
Mhm,
with like more of like preppery,
mhm.
um, it would be amazing. But
Yeah, and you can, like, we have and it sounds cheesy, but we have all these, like, cheap stores or whatever where they buy, like, overstock from Amazon or whatever, and so that's where I find, like, all of my supply bags or packaging stuff or,
Mhm.
whatever, and I even have, like, like, the sealers that you can use to put things in or whatever, but, like,
Yep.
making, like, soups or things like that ahead of time, like the dry ingredients and stuff, it saves a world of time,
Mhm.
or I make a lot of custom oatmeal, and so
Really?
yep, and so, like, I'll make big bags of that and seal it off and whatever for freshness and stuff, so I can ship them out to people or do whatever, yeah. Make a lot of teas, so I have a lot of like, a great big huge, storage shelf that has nothing but ingredients for, like, custom teas, so
That's cool. That's
mhm,
cool. I like the sounds of that.
mhm. Yeah, because teas can be very medicinal too, and even, like, I do a lot of my own supplements and stuff,
Yeah, I
so
was gonna ask you about that too, because I
different
remember you
different
mentioning it.
herbs um, and things like that that you can do and then compound them yourself because, like, the gelatin capsules that you put them in, um, they're very cheap. You can buy, like, a whole bag of, like, 100, 200,000, whatever you need, And then either you can fill them by hand or you can get the little small toolkit that's like $19 and then just, like I will make tubs of whatever vitamin or something I'm going to make at that time. Like I've made people prostate health stuff before and things like that. So I'll make a big tub of it and then fill what I need to. And then, I have the rest saved for the next time. So yeah.
Nice. That's cool.
Mhm.
What kind of supplements do you do?
I have different ones that I do, and it depends on like if it's something that I need or something that I think my husband needs, or like my dad. I was doing the prostate stuff for him before, but I was doing like a total health supplement that has like quercetin and zinc and vitamin B12 and all of these different things in it, and blueberry extract and Ceylon cinnamon and stuff like that. And
Nice.
I'm really big into essential oils, so a lot of times I'll incorporate essential oils in my stuff too, because I always make my own toothpaste and mouthwash and all of that stuff too. So that's why I'm glad
Wow,
I'm retired,
that's
because I can do
cool.
all the stuff now that I never had time for before.
You're way more self-sufficient than I am. Like,
Well,
I was, like, priding myself in my garden and stuff, and then you got, like, "Oh, I make my own toothpaste," and then I'm like, "Wow,
yeah,
alright.
I
Shit, I
do,
wish I
and
could do
then,
that."
like, during Christmas season, one of our local bars every year does like a Christmas for the kids type thing, and they do like raffle stuff or whatever for a fundraiser,
Uh-huh.
to buy presents or fund families' needs or whatever. And so I just made like a whole bunch of homemade stuff and made all kinds of gift baskets that they could put in the raffle. So, I made like soap and lotions and lip balm and stuff like that. So, yeah,
That's
I
cool,
like
that's
doing
cool.
stuff like that. Sometimes it's time consuming, um,
Oh, yeah, I
and
believe it.
sometimes it's stressful.
I
And
wanna get
when things
good.
don't go right, yeah. But yeah, I like doing stuff like that because it helps me be creative. Plus, I can do things for other people. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it's kind of I feel like it's sort of important anyway.
Mhm.
I wanna get goats just so I can make my own
I do too.
soap, you know what I mean?
That is like my dream, is to have a little farm,
Mhm.
because I love animals. I literally spend all
Me
of my
too.
free time outside anyway, and I'll talk to like whatever comes in the yard or, whatever. I'm always talking to the bees and the birds and toads and all kinds of stuff. My husband laughs at me and he calls me Snow White because like the animals just like to hang out with me. So I
That's
would love
funny.
to have a farm and just have like the garden of my dreams and have all the animals that I could ever want. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's start a deplorable cult and, like, build a convent and,
I
you know.
totally would. Yes,
Yeah.
and we would have free healthcare in our
Yeah,
absolutely. Mhm.
that'd be great.
Mm,
That'd be great. Everybody pitches in just a little bit.
yep,
Just a large homestead kinda thing.
absolutely.
Everybody works
Everybody
together.
with the price of, property and stuff right now, everybody would have to pitch in.
Yeah, right, right.
I am not a millionaire. Mm-mm.
Love a good mystery that leaves you wanting more? Check out my podcast. Hi, I'm Kadra, the host of Perplexity, a Mystery Podcast. I tell tales every single week that have left me perplexed. You'll hear true crime cases, mysterious disappearances, learn about cults, hear baffling sightings of cryptids, chilling paranormal encounters, and even dark and weird history. I release new episodes every Wednesday, and you can listen anywhere podcasts are available. I'm also on Patreon, and you can even watch me on YouTube. Perplexity, a Mystery Podcast. Stories that will leave you perplexed.
So when I was on your show, you had mentioned that you are a medium or you're sensitive. Was it
Yeah, I don't call myself a medium at all,
okay?
but I definitely have had lots of times in my life where I feel like spirit stuff is trying to communicate with me. I can hear it sounds weird. I can hear voices. No, I'm not crazy. But yeah, like patients that I had taken care of in the past that had specific conversations with me, like I could hear them, saying stuff like that or whatever, like after they had passed. Same thing with my sister.
Mhm.
And I think I told you that, but my sister always used to do this thing, and she was 2 years older than me. So she passed away quite a long time ago. But it's like she'd always do that thing where, you put your hand on the head and it's like alien brain suckers. Oh, they're
Yeah.
starving to death. And so, like always feeling that or smelling certain smells that like her favorite smell was lilac, stuff like that. And so kind of always had like those extra sensory things. I can smell things other people don't smell. I can hear things that other people don't hear, and I can even taste things that, like if we ever go out to eat or something, I'll be like, "Oh wow, this has like such and such in it." My husband's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I can taste it."
Yeah.
So having, and I've been that way, like with the extra senses and stuff since I was really little. I've always been that way, and so even as far back as like, 4 or 5 years old, I can always remember like being extra um sensitive, I guess I would say, to, like spirit world type stuff and uh connecting with, deceased and things, but I don't like to focus on that too much because you never know if it's a loved one or something demonic.
That's true. That's true. You
So,
have a point. You have a very good point,
mhm.
ma'am. So with that, like, what can you recall like the first time you knew something was was up?
Probably when I was really little. I was probably like 4 or 5 years old, and my parents had moved into a new place. We literally moved down the street from where I was born and raised, right? So we moved a block down the street, and I started having like I could hear somebody talking, but there was literally no person outside of my family in the house. Um, and so I kept telling my parents, I'm like, there's something like there's somebody here. I can hear them talking in there. Of course, they're like, "Oh, you're cuckoo, you're nuts, whatever." And it kept happening, and things kept showing up like Christmas. Like there was a bear that showed up that nobody bought. I've had that happen many times throughout my life where I even had an Indian Kachina doll show up on my porch, and everybody's like, wasn't me, and it was like a protector Kachina. And,
Wow.
stuff like that, and my parents finally looked up at after my, like, nagging and urging at them, and anyway, somebody had passed in that house in the basement. And so, I'm assuming that's who I kept hearing talk. I never did get a name or anything, but yeah. So, yeah,
Wow, that's
very, very
interesting.
young, very small, but that's also, like, when kids are very, very vulnerable and open to, like, spiritual attacks and things like
Oh
that.
yeah.
That's why I said I've always wanted to be very cautious and careful about making sure I'm grounded and making sure that I don't stay in that kind of thought process too long.
Yeah, that's a good
Mhm.
way to be, honestly.
But all
'Cause
all the items that always showed up and people didn't know where they came from,
yeah.
that has happened even into my adulthood.
No
And it's like
shit.
our kids are adults, they're grown, they don't live at home, it's just me and my husband, and there will be something that will show up in the house, and he's like, "Did you buy that?" And I'm like, "No, I thought it was yours." And he's like, "No." So, yeah, random
Uh,
weird stuff.
well, let's hope you don't have somebody living in your walls.
Right?
I
And
mean,
if
because
they
there are
do, they must
stories.
be really nice people.
Well, they're quiet, so that's a good thing.
Exactly, mhm.
Um, so you had that happen, and, um, did you ever see did you ever get, like, a visual of
Mm-mm.
anything?
Nope.
No
The
apparitions,
only
nothing?
the only time that has ever happened, I was watching one of my friend's shows that she
Mhm.
had recorded, and they were talking about, spirit world, they were using, like, the EVP meters and stuff like that on the show, and I'm watching the show, and I can see, like, smoke beings, like,
Mm.
walking around behind her, flying around behind her, and I'm like, "What the heck?" Maybe I'm like, "Boop, boop, boop, I need to clean my eyeballs," and I'm like, "Gonna take a break, go outside for a minute, and then I'll come back in and I'll watch again," and, the whole time during this video, and they're talking about, people's names and, different things kept coming up on the different meters that they were using and stuff, and it was so strange, like, seeing these I can't even describe it. It's kinda like a almost like you would see on a cartoon like Casper or something where you see some kinda, like, thing fly by, but it kept
Yes.
happening the whole time that they were recording when they had these meters on. And
Wow.
I'm like, "Dude, like, you got some stuff going on in your room right now." And she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Mhm, you have some things walking around, flying around behind you." It was very weird. Yep.
That is weird.
That's the only
Well
time I've ever, like, seen something. Now, I will tell you, because I'm very much an empath and I can feel, like, people's emotions and stuff like that, there's been numerous occasions where, like, we were downtown one time and, Beale Street is a big deal here, and it's, a big touristy area and stuff. We were down there for a concert one time, and it was so hot in the venue, we went outside to sit on the curb, and all of a sudden, the hair on the back of my head stood up, and I was like, got this overwhelming sense of, "We need to get out of here now." And I told my husband, and he knows better than to, like, question me if I have one of those gut feelings,
Uh-huh.
and he's like, "Okay." He's like, "Let's go." And so we had to walk a couple blocks away to get to, the parking garage where we were parked at, and in that time, it came on the radio that there was a mass shooting right where we had just been. So
No shit.
that's happened, like, multiple times, like, I'll get, like, the spidey senses going on, and I'll be like, even spidey senses about people
Mhm.
or, like, people that are watching or people that could be following somebody or whatever, like, I will get a feeling and I'll be like, "Okay, nope, mm-mm, time to skedaddle." Yeah.
Well, I think I need you to be with me 24/7 then.
There's been a couple of occasions where things like that have happened because, we're super big into music scene around here, and so,
Yeah.
we always have this huge music fest here every year, and one year where we were there, and I was like, I was like, "Oh," I'm like, "We need to get, like, out of this area right now. We need to go, like, away from this stage," and because they have, like, 5 different stages set up on the grounds or whatever. And I'm like, "We need to get away from here, like, now." And there was, like, a riot that took place at that stage after we left.
Wow.
So, yeah. I'm thankful for those, little intuitions, but at the same time, kinda makes me, um, uncomfortable at times. That's why I always have to make sure that I ground myself and, stay, like, peaceful, pray a lot. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My it's it, I don't know if it's like a woman thing or not, but I've had instances where I think somebody's following me and then it turns out that they're not. But my
Mhm.
ex-wife one time, like right after my son was born, she was at Walmart with her friend and it was night or early, like early evening. But it was getting dark out and she was walking around Walmart and she was pretty sure that these two guys were like following her and her friend.
Mhm.
Um, and they never spoke to her or anything like that. And she kept seeing them throughout the store. And then she saw them when when they came out into the parking lot. And then um there was a car behind them for for a good like while and they decided to pull over to
Mhm.
let them by and the car pulled over behind them.
Yep.
And then she was like, I got either her friend got out and was like, "What the fuck do you want?" And then they're like, "Can we get your number?"
Mhm.
And freaking so what are you gonna do? Like follow these women all the way to their house trying to
Mhm.
get their fucking phone? Like what would you have? Like what would have? Number one, my son was in the back seat. Like my son was a
Right.
newborn at the time. Like uh, I just like the logic in people's heads. Like I don't like at this point. She was like pretty sure that they wouldn't have done anything, but at
But you never
first of
know
all, you
'cause
never exactly you never
people are
know.
batshit,
Um,
so
yeah,
pardon for cussing.
and stuff like it's just and so they ended up driving in circles until like the guys got like tired of it or
Well,
whatever.
yeah,
And
because you never know. I mean, they could have been kidnappers or serial killers or, what that's where my brain goes because I like watching, like, murder
the true
shows
crime
and
stuff, yeah.
yeah, that's my thing. So,
I mean, I check that stuff out too, just because it's I like I like it to hear about the victims, just to like to
mhm.
hear their story
Right,
and stuff like
absolutely.
that, and like bring awareness to them specifically.
Mhm.
I wish some of them would, talk more about, like, the victims than they do about the actual murderer, but,
Right, absolutely.
it is what it is. But there are a few shows, like, there's a couple podcasts that focus on the victim themselves
Mhm.
rather than the person that, you know, did horrible things to them.
Right, exactly, and I think, bringing that human element and that human aspect to, like, the person that was lost and what their life was like and what their life
Mhm.
could have been like, I think that that's important, and there's a lot of shows that, definitely leave that part out and spend way too much time on, the crazies.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why some crazies do the crazy things is
Mhm.
because they're like, "Well, I'm gonna get talked about forever
Famous.
now."
Wanna get famous. Yeah.
Yeah, just like I can't remember his name, but the guy that did the, um, movie theater in Colorado back
Mhm.
in, what, 2008 or, 2011 or
Mhm.
12, sorry, 2012, right when Batman came out or whatever.
Right.
And he's just like, "Oh, I just wanna, make a name for myself." It's like, "What?"
Like you couldn't figure out a different way to make a name for yourself.
I
You're not
mean,
very creative, are
some
you?
kind of name he made for himself. I can't even remember his name.
Yeah, I know. I can't remember what it is either. So that
I
makes 2 of
remember.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember he was, a little, crazy. So,
Mhm.
um,
Cute dad.
so what was your like early life like other than like this weird stuff that you realized was happening around you? What was growing up like for you?
I had an imaginary friend. Can't
Okay.
remember what the imaginary friend's name was, but my parents were super strict because my dad was both my parents were ex-military, and so it was, scheduled, regimented, this time slot is allowed for this, and like you had chores all the time, like assigned chores and stuff like that. So it was kind of militant, and they were definitely not loving people. Um, very emotionless, except toward each other. And it wasn't a loving thing toward each other. Like my mom would literally stand behind my dad's back and flip him off. And so growing up like that,
Mm.
it's kind of one of those things where I didn't find out until much later, like in my 30s, like what actual love was supposed to be like, because they fought a lot and you could tell they like really disliked each other. Um, but they stayed together for the kids, right?
Mm.
And so I was the youngest of 3, and so I always got to hear, "Why can't you be more like your sister? Your sister is so smart. Your sister is so good at sports. Why can't you be more like her?" And so it was favoritism, lots of that. My brother went in the military as soon as he graduated high school, so he wasn't around. It was me and my sister, and it was, like, very much known, right, that I was not their favorite. And then things really got worse after my sister passed away, because it was almost like a hatred toward me
Uh-huh.
because I was still here and I was the disappointing child, and, they lost her and she was perfect. So
Oh,
I dealt with
yikes.
that a lot, and it took me quite a while to, like, get over all of that stuff and that, like, deep-seated, like, disdain for my parents. Yeah.
Mm. Are they still alive?
Yes,
Okay.
and after being married for 60 some years, my mom decided that she hates my dad, and so they separated, and so, after all those, like, years of marriage and, like, when they really should have separated a long time ago, yeah, they finally separated, and they live in different houses, and they don't speak unless they have to. Not divorced, just separated. Very
Interesting.
strange.
Very strange.
I'm glad I don't, I'm glad I don't live around that. They live in
Yeah.
another state, so I'm happy about that. Yeah,
Good. Good.
yeah. So, eh, bad that they separated after all that time, but good in the aspect that maybe they can both, like, heal and, grow up a little. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't still talk to you like that, do they?
Well, here's the joyful thing.
Mhm.
My mother, disowned me,
Oh, okay.
because I went to Washington, DC. Um,
Oh, I
disowned me because whatever. Well, at the time, I went in the capacity of a journalist.
uh-huh.
Didn't wanna hear it, didn't wanna hear about, COVID and stuff like that, and so basically told me to F off, didn't ever want to speak to me again. Now we have the kind of relationship where she will get a hold of me when it's convenient. Um, and this is going to sound really callous, and I don't mean it to be that way. But she got multiple jib jabs, got cancer. And so I went to take care of her when she was going through treatment and stuff, putting my, my feelings and myself aside and went to take care of her and stuff. And once all of that was done, then she didn't need me anymore. And so she only gets a hold of me when she needs something. And I've tried numerous times to repair the relationship and, reach out and whatever. And she just, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that
I'm not.
is happening.
Yeah, I'm not because I'm a firm believer in removing anything and everything from your life that's toxic.
Yeah.
Um, and that doesn't make you happy and it doesn't bring like joy to your life. And so
Mhm.
I'm okay with that. I still talk to my dad. My dad's 86 years old and he still works full time. So
Wow.
I still, I'm still in contact with him. And like I said, I still reach out and try to talk to my mom and whatever because I know she's got new health things that she's going through, but she'll only share with me whenever she needs to.
Mm,
So it is what it is, and I'm okay with that.
yeah. Well, I didn't get I think we talked about this when I was on with you. I didn't disown or I basically just detached from my
Mhm.
mother. Like
Right.
she's she's welcome to I'll talk to her if she wants to talk or whatever and stuff like that. And I'll see her at events or like she was at the baby shower
Mhm.
and stuff and I talked to her there. But other than that, I don't feel it necessary to
Mhm.
carry anything else out. Like
Right.
I don't talk to her the way I used to or anything like that. I don't She's invited me over for like game nights and stuff and I'm like I'd rather just sit at home and hang out with my kids, you know?
Exactly. I'd rather go dig a hole with a toothpick, but thanks.
Yeah. But
It's sometimes we have to, like, sever those relationships, though, because it's super important to make boundaries
oh,
for
for sure.
ourselves and to not us not cross them and not allow other people to cross them because, like, our lives are very drama free, and we don't let negativity, drama, like any of that stuff in our lives. So if either side of our family is causing issues, they got to go. And
I
we're in
gotcha.
agreement on that. So, yeah.
That's a good way to be. That's a good way to be.
hence why Heidi and I are best friends, but not so much with most other females because they bring a lot of drama
Yeah.
and a lot of baggage and a lot of judgment, and that's something that I'm not good with. So yeah,
Yeah,
shout out to Miss Heidi.
yeah. Heidi, I love her.
Mhm,
Um, it's funny too because um there are a lot of men that are very, drama ridden.
mhm.
I've found that out
I
just through work.
I've run across some of them in this realm.
Yeah, yeah, like the job that I have now, I've worked so hard not talking to anybody
Mhm.
just because I don't need shit,
Right,
but,
right.
I've been kinda like not forced, but I've been kinda like catapulted into more of I wouldn't say like the center of attention, but just more, I guess, hands-on or not hands-on. I don't know how to really like phrase it, but I'm more in the center of everybody
Mhm.
essentially.
Right.
And I have kind of have to talk to people now a little bit. And there's a couple guys where like I haven't had a conversation. There's this one guy that I work with that I have not had a conversation with him without him bitching about something.
Right.
Just like just fucking move on. Like that's, and it's just, and I hate listening to it. Like I just, when it comes to
Mhm.
work, I just want to grab my shit and get in my truck and fucking go do what I got to do. I don't
Mhm.
want to sit here and fucking have to wait because somebody is bitching about something. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Well,
having
and
like a
that's
whole conniption fit.
that's the way, like, a lot of, people are that you meet, like, out in the real world, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
um, people that I was friends with before or whatever, and it's literally so narcissistic. They always talk about themselves, and then they're always complaining, and it's everybody else's fault all the time, and can you believe this is happening to me, and just all the time, and I'm like, I can't, I just can't with people like that because I'm just like, I'm kinda old school, I guess, maybe because of the way I was raised, and I'm like, "You know what? Pull your pants up and just stop griping, stop bitching, and just do what you need to do."
Mhm.
It's kinda, like the society we live in these days where you codify all these young adults growing up and whatever, and it's
Yeah.
like everybody gets a participation trophy, and everybody's the same, and everybody's wonderful, and, everybody gets mental health days off of work now and stuff if the election doesn't go their way, or, you know, somebody upset them, or just somebody didn't call them the right pronoun or whatever, and I'm like, "Oh my word." Like, it's so much for me. It's like sensory overload for me when people are like that and they complain about literally the dumbest things. And I'm like, there's so many other things that are big that you could worry about if you need to worry about something, but, you know, mispronouncing your, whatever you claim yourself to be today, is not my problem.
Yeah. I mean, hard.
Maybe that makes me rude, but okay.
I don't. It's real. It's
Yeah.
not rude. It's real. Um, hard men make easy times make soft men make hard times.
Mhm.
And then, unfortunately, we're living in the soft men era,
Right.
which
Absolutely, and I'm just gonna throw this out there. I really like manly men. Sorry.
I mean a lot
I
of a lot
do.
of people do.
Yeah, and don't, I'm not a fan of, like, sissifying men or feminizing men. I have a problem with that.
Yeah. Yeah. You can still, I mean, like I say, like you can still be manly and still like have emotions, just like
Mhm.
how the fuck did I
Yeah,
want to
the
say that?
emotions is not the problem.
Yeah.
What's the problem for me is I don't wanna see you in a dress or a lace romper. I don't that's not that's not my thing. That's not my jam.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, I would never. Me personally, I would never, and by the sounds of it, I don't think your husband would either.
Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
That it's not to get too far down this road and talk shit about a bunch of people, because I do want to, and I do sometimes, but not that it's the end of the world. That if you do like, if you that's the way you like to present yourself, that's totally fine. It's just, the way society has, like, they've made it so easy. Everything's processed. Like,
Mhm.
these days, there's nobody that knows how to grow anything. There's nobody
Right,
that knows how to participate in, like, if everything was to end today,
right. Yep.
there's a mass amount of people that would be completely useless.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
the first people to go are the people that are sitting here having breakdowns because their pronouns were used
Right.
inappropriately, or or the wrong one was used for that.
And if that's the level of difficulty that you can't handle in your life, holy cow, when there's a big, huge disaster or trauma that comes along, what a disservice society has done for you, because where are you going to be? You're going to be piled under the rubble, sucking your thumb, trembling, because you're not going to be any help.
Yeah.
No.
And it's not a dig at you personally, it's just the society has
Right.
created you that way. You know
Right.
what I mean? And it's,
Right.
that's just how it is. And like you can't just brush anything off, and unfortunately, if we end up in a dystopian country, which sometimes it kind of looks that way, there's
Mhm.
just those are the people that are they're gonna go first. So
Well, and that's, it is a sad thing, because we as a society have built this culture through all the codifying of children and all of that stuff, where we have confused them so much. They don't know their gender, they don't know their pronouns, they don't know sexual orientation, they don't know like about the world, they don't know history, they don't literally know anything other than we have taught them to all be victims in
yes,
one aspect or another. We
yeah,
have created a victim society, which is a sad thing, but everybody in our society now has to live with a label, right? You have to be uh, depressed. You have to have anxiety. You have to, you know, be a victim of racism or whatever. It's always like you have to be under an umbrella of a label, or
mhm.
you don't like belong in our society nowadays, which I think is crazy.
That is crazy because um everybody deals with depression at some point or
Mhm.
another.
Right.
Maybe other people it's worse. And I'm not saying that, that whoever's listening, you're not going through you
Right.
don't suffer from really bad depression. That's not what I'm
Right.
saying. I'm saying everybody experiences it. Just some people experience it harder than
Mhm.
the
But
majority.
people have to, it's kinda like we allow ourselves to use whatever label as a crutch.
Yes.
So, society tells you that you have to label yourself as depressed, and then it's kinda like an excuse crutch, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not
for you
putting down people that have depression, I'm not saying that.
right.
But it's like you can use that as a, like, get out of jail card free as a pass, right? In Monopoly or whatever, because, well, I couldn't do it because I was depressed, or, um, I didn't turn my assignment on time because I was depressed. I didn't go to work because I was depressed. Like, it's there as an excuse or a crutch for us to use as a, like, pacification, I guess, for our shortcomings, instead of like addressing the concern of what started the depression in the first place,
Yeah.
and instead of getting to the root cause, it's just like our society has made it okay for people to move through life always under that umbrella and not ever getting uh cured or getting better.
Yeah.
So,
I I agree. I 100% agree with that. And I will also say I think an uptick in mental health and like depression and
mhm,
anxiety has to do with the fact that we spend most of our lives inside and we're not meant to be inside.
right.
We are not meant to be inside as much as we are. And 2020 came around and what did we have to do? Stay the fuck inside.
Well, that and then not having, face-to-face contact with people.
Yep.
And, like, everybody's doing these virtual reality headsets and doing, playing video games at home on their couch or, whatever, and it's like we have cordoned ourselves off so much from having like those interpersonal face-to-face relationships, and that has damaged like such a large portion of society because you need that human connection to be able to, to grow and to blossom on your own. And so if you
Mhm.
isolate yourself from everybody, where does that leave you?
Right.
And even like the college students and stuff, that where their teachers will say, well, we're going to be covering X, Y, and Z in class, and so if it makes you uncomfortable, you don't have to come to class. What?
Really?
Or you don't have to take the test, or whatever. And that's like rampant on college campuses now.
Wow.
Like both of our kids are adults now, but when they were going through, their programs and stuff, it was like, they told you what? You don't have to come to class and you don't have to take the test. If it's something that makes you uncomfortable, a topic that makes you uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't attendance mandatory for grades in class? Yes, I think it is,
That's what
because
I thought.
it certainly was in my classes. You better be there. Mhm,
Wow, that's super interesting. I didn't know that. That's
mhm.
crazy.
Yep.
That is wild. And
Mm.
intelligence is different than being smart.
Yes,
I feel
100%.
like if that makes any sense to anybody.
It does.
Uh,
We have that discussion all the time where, like, my husband works at a place where there's a bunch of PhDs,
uh-huh.
that work there, and they are dumber than a box of rocks. So just because you have a degree, doesn't make you intelligent.
Yeah.
And
I
just
think
because you don't have a degree doesn't mean you're not intelligent.
right. Right. I mean, I 100%. There's people that have never gone to college that make 10 times
Mhm.
more money from the business that they've created from the ground,
Right, right.
um, making more than anybody has coming out of college.
Well, and I think there's a big problem in our society too, because there's so much of an emphasis on a college degree, no matter what it's in, right? You could go and
Yep.
get a liberal arts degree or gender studies or whatever. But as long as you have that piece of paper, that's what they look for. Instead of, okay, you don't have a degree, but you have all of these skills that would be way more beneficial to us than
Mhm.
this piece of paper. But instead, our society's backwards, and it's like, as long as you have the piece of paper, you don't have to have any skills.
We are the Brutal, Bizarre, and Boozy Podcast. I'm Declan, the son.
And I'm Jane, the mom. This is the podcast where we talk about brutal crimes like serial killers and the random one-off murder. We will tell you about bizarre occurrences like alien abductions and monsters in the dark. And we just might get you drunk with cocktails themed around one of our stories.
At the very end of every show, we like to lighten things up and cleanse the palate from the tragic and terrifying stories. So we end our time with a chaser. You might get to hear crazy stories about our pets or just silly movie recommendations.
Give us a listen. We are the Brutal, Bizarre, and Boozy Podcast.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yes. Yeah. I had a teacher in high school. He told me, um, he goes, and the long and short is that a lot of jobs are looking for somebody who can stay on task and can
Mhm.
complete things,
Right.
which is why the diploma is so important, because the diploma shows that you can complete something. And then
Mhm.
if you have a college degree, it means you've even paid to go do something to complete, and that makes you more desirable whether you have the skill or not.
Mhm. Well, and that's the and that's the problem. We talk about this a lot because when I was teaching, they got a lot of financial aid and federal dollars and stuff like that. And so it would come to like the end of a term or something, and I'd be like submitting all the grades and stuff. And they would call me into the office and they'd go, "You're going to have to figure out a way to like pass, these 5 students or whatever, because we need the financial dollars from the federal government." And I'm like, "Okay, but here's the thing. They never showed up in class. They failed every single test if they did come to class, never handed in assignments." I'm like, "So no attendance, no grades, and bad test if there was one at all. How do you want me exactly to pass these kids?" And it wasn't a concern about them not showing up and not knowing anything. The only concern was they would lose those federal dollars if we didn't have a
Yeah.
certain percent. And I'm like, I'm teaching medical students, like nursing students and medical assistant students and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm not going to put somebody out into the world of work to take care of you or your kids or your parents when they don't know anything. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in my class, period. I don't care how like much that you as administration want to come down on me. That is not my job. My job is to make them responsible, educated adults.
Yes.
My concern is not about your federal funding at
I
all.
can't believe they asked you to do that. That's
Mhm. Happened all the
ridiculous.
time.
Oh my
Yep.
God.
And we have we chuckle about this because somebody that works with my husband worked in like the HR department. And then they did away with his job there, and so they moved him to information systems. 2 totally different things. So, has 0 skills in that area whatsoever. So, can't do, like, any of the projects that they work on, can't do any, like, analytics and stuff like that. And it's like, "Well, we're gonna have to, like, develop him. We can't let him go because, um, he's been here for a long time and his wife is really important."
His wife is really important.
What? Yeah, because she works there too in another
Oh
capacity, but
my
it's like,
God.
we just moved this person around from place to place to place. This is like the 8th place that he's wound up, like,
Oh
in
my
the
God.
facility now because his wife is important and they don't want her to go anywhere. So it's like they just dump him on people and he doesn't have the skills for any of the departments they've put him in.
Wow.
No, okay. Like, why? But we have to keep people like that because what? They need a job? So, lots of people need a job that could actually do the job.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have a point. You have a point.
Yeah.
That's redonkulous.
Mhm.
I don't understand the line of thinking in that, but
I don't
s
either. Mm-mm.
um, but so you taught medical school, right? What got you into that f what,
I
uh,
worked
drove you to that
I
field,
worked
I guess?
at the, teaching hospital, right?
Mhm.
Worked for this one doctor that was family practice, I had been there for literally ever, and he started taking all kinds of students. So we had, physician students, we had nursing students, we had phlebotomists, we had, medical assisting students. We literally had every kind of student under the sun because we did a lot of, like, surgeries and orthopedics and literally everything. Um, and they kept going, "Well, you should be a site preceptor." And I'm like, "Psh, what? No." Like, at the time I was really shy. I know you can tell I'm a shy person now, right?
Oh, yeah, I could
But
totally
at the
tell.
time I was super shy and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't wanna do this. I just really don't. I don't wanna talk to people. I don't want this to happen." Like, mm-mm. So they kept after me and kept after me and kept after me. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake, okay. So I was a site preceptor at our teaching facility for really long time. And then it was like, we think you would be good at classroom teaching. And I'm like, oh no, don't want to do that either. No, I don't. I don't like public speaking. I don't want to get up in front of people. I'm like, hate that more than anything. And after they worked on me and worked on me and worked on me and whittled at me for quite a while, I was like, okay, I'll do it. So, that is how I wound up going from the, nursing into the teaching realm. So, yeah. And I
That's interesting.
I loved it because I had the opportunity to like have that bond with students that nobody had bonded with before. Like they were the first person in their family to ever go to college and, whatever. And I still keep in contact with a lot of my students.
Oh,
And
that's
it's been
cool.
years since I retired from that. Yep. And I will say it was really rough teaching because I was working like 80 hours a week, had to teach a split shift. I would go and teach in the morning, then I'd have a couple hours in the afternoon off, and then I'd have to go back and teach night school.
Mhm.
And so, like, I never saw my family, never saw my husband, never saw the kids, like, missed everything. And I'm like, and I'd get home at like 11:30 at night, and then I'd have to grade papers or make tests or prepare notes for the next day or whatever. And I'm like, this is like so much. I loved it and I did that for quite a long time, but it was demanding and it was a lot of hours. Yeah.
Mm. That sounds like a lot of hours. I
Mhm.
don't envy that at all. I work a lot of hours right now, and I'm pretty sure the stuff that you were doing is a lot more than what I do right
Yeah.
now.
And it was funny because they would have like a suggested plan for you to like
Mhm.
teach whatever. And I was like, okay, I need to find different ways because thinking back on people that taught me, like, I don't absorb things if people just drone on for like ever because our attention span is so short. And so I would come up with like games to play, like Jeopardy or, whatever. We'd make games up or something so that they could learn like whatever subject we were teaching at the time to learn it better. Or I would make up like stupid songs or stupid poems or whatever to help them remember. And it was funny because my students would go, like I'm sitting there taking the state board exam and I'm just hearing that poem over and over and over again in my head, or I'm seeing like, the scenes that we did enacted a play or whatever, like I'm seeing that and I remember what the answer was for the test. And I'm like, thank God. Like stuff like that. It was a lot more work to come up with something creative, but I never had a student that did not pass their boards ever.
Nice.
So, yeah. And I enjoyed teaching because I had a lot of students that requested to be in my class. A lot of students would transfer into my class because, like I said, it was a good success rate for them.
Mhm.
And so students that really wanted to learn, they got an education in my class and not just a passing grade because they wanted, school wanted financial aid dollars.
Yeah. So so with your medical background, what is, your take on the jib jab?
Are you gonna get removed if I tell you?
Right, I mean, probably, but that's okay. I'm only gonna get you removed from YouTube,
Yeah.
probably.
Well, you'll definitely get removed from YouTube. Um, I would not touch it with a 10-foot pole because They started working on that technology back in 2013, but the wide swath DNA collection started before that with the 23andMe and whatever. And so they're getting like these wide swath DNA for, the Genome Project.
Yeah.
So they can target biological weapons to target certain systems in the body, right? Because of our genetic profile. And so they have all that information, even if one of your relatives down the line submitted, a saliva test or whatever, your information is now in that database as well. So the technology I do not approve of because it is definitely a modification and a change to our genetic material. They haven't done enough research on spike proteins and how spike proteins attack ACE2 cells, which you have in your heart, your lungs, your brain. The way medications and vaccines work in our country, it's a revolving door system between like the FDA and the pharmaceutical companies. Like 38 of the last, I think it was 47 people that were in charge of the FDA went on to have big jobs like CEO jobs at Big Pharma, or people that were big deals or worked in the approval areas at Big Pharma come and work at the FDA in the approval department. So they, grease each other's palms and skid things through there. And miraculously, Pfizer is one of the largest funders of the CDC. And I bet a lot of people did not know that, but that is very true.
I did. I knew that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I have a lot of stuff to say about vaccinations because that's what I do a lot of on my show is expose pharma and the medical industrial complex. I've done like 2 vaccine shows actually with Paranoia Radio, where we went in pretty depth detail of stuff and how they always come out and say, well, it's just going to take one. That's all it's going to need is just one. And it's, it's going to be one and done. And every vaccination that they have rolled out, they have always said only one. And then it's, well, we miscalculated. You're going to need 2. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, you're going to need 3. And one of the cases that I always like to cite is with their rollout of the varicella vaccine, which is for chickenpox. They said, oh, it's going to only be one, and it's going to prevent people from getting chickenpox, like at all. You won't get it. Okay. They rolled it out. They made it mandatory. It was on the, National Vaccine Registry program. And so they made it mandated for schools and stuff. So all these kids are getting the vaccine. And then everybody that got the vaccine started coming into the office with massive chickenpox. And so we're on the phone. I'm talking to the state and I'm going, yeah, like, we've seen 45 kids today that just got vaccinated and they have chickenpox really bad. So then we became a reporting agency for the state. And so we had to mark down every time a patient had been vaccinated and they came in with chickenpox, like guesstimate the number of spots and what category they fell in. And so then they were like, oh, man, this data is terrible. We're going to have to do a second shot because the first one didn't work great. Didn't give enough coverage. So we're going to give a second one. This is definitely going to stop it, though. There won't be any problems. And it magnified so much, and we were seeing repeat cases in the same kids. And what did they always said? Oh, you can only get chickenpox once.
Yeah.
Lie. After this shot, we were seeing kids that would come in and they would have chickenpox 4, 5, 6 times, and we're reporting it to the state, and then the state's like, yeah, this doesn't look very good. Like, the data is terrible. You know what? We're gonna have to do a third one.
Oh
And
my
we're
God.
like, really? So it's no different than the COVID jab, where it's like, oh, well, the immunity wasn't what we were hoping it would be. And so get, a booster. Oh, wait a minute. Now you're going to need, 4, 5, 6 boosters on top of the series of 3 in the first place. But each time that you get one, your immunity decreases, your natural immunity decreases. And so then you will be left with 0 opportunity to fight off any opportunistic infection that comes along, because you have no immunities. You have 0 chance to fight off anything that comes your way. And
Yeah,
that's why you see the constant battle with people that that have been vaccinated, and they're literally constantly sick.
Yep.
Always something like,
Yep.
I think I have COVID again. I think I have a strep throat. I think I have the flu. I think I have whatever. But they're constantly sick because they have no immune system now, because it's been destroyed.
Mhm. Mhm. I will say, like, the whole time too, like, I never got sick, like,
Mhm.
and I never stopped working either. I was still dealing with people and
Right.
shit like that. Never got sick. I didn't get sick until, um, I think it was 2022, and it was bad, like, it was rough, but, like, it was nothing that I was like, "I'm never gonna survive this," or anything like that.
Mhm.
And I got through it. And then I'm always the person. I'm the kind of person that will literally try and let my body fight it before I
Right.
ever take any kind of medicine.
Agreed. Same.
So it could be like sometimes it makes me sick longer because which is. I mean, my body is doing what it's supposed to do. Like it
Right.
needs my immune system needs that to, combat, other viruses or,
Mhm.
however, whatever you want to call it, germs
Right.
and stuff like that. And when they brought the jib jab out, and I was just like, that was fast. I was like, I'm not sure if I trust it. And of course,
Mhm.
so my ex-girlfriend at the time was, her sister was anti-vax, and
Mhm.
she would tell me all this stuff. And she never got her kids like the regular vaccines
Right.
either, so she has to homeschool and shit, which I find is the most
I would rather
ridiculous thing.
anyway.
Yeah, and like, yeah, I would prefer that for my kids too, but I mean, my kids, unfortunately, I didn't know any better when I had them, so
Right. Well, I
um
didn't either, because I was very indoctrinated. But with vaccinations, like being a nurse, you constantly had to get vaccinated for like every year. You had to get the flu shot, and you had to, get whatever shit came down the pike. You had to get pneumonia shot. You had to get blah blah blah. And it was mandatory. It wasn't an option. You couldn't deny it because you worked with patients, so you had to have it. Since I've retired, I have not been sick, not a single day. But when I was still working, I had pneumonia frequently. I had mono, and I'm like, mono? I'm an adult. How the heck did I get mono? And strep throat and like all these other things. Like, I was constantly getting something, but I was constantly getting vaccinated. And now that I'm not in that field, and I'm like, I'm not ever going back to that, I have not been sick, not once.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I will say my eyes were kinda opened in, like, 2013. 2013 was the first time was when I stopped getting the flu vaccine
Mhm.
because I was getting them every year, and every year I got the flu, and I'm like, what the fuck is the point? So like
Mhm.
in 2013, I went for my physical, and my doctor's like, "Do you want the flu vaccine?" I was like, "Nah."
Nope.
And then I didn't get sick that year,
Thanks, but
and
no.
so
Mm.
I just continued not getting it, and I never got sick.
Mhm.
Now I know, like, I get the purpose of vaccines. Like, I know that the whole point was to help humanity and stuff, but they've done a lot of damage, and the fact that you can't sue them for vaccine
Right.
injuries makes me skeptical to begin with. And
Well
when they came out with the COVID one and I'm watching it, I'm just like, well, I'll just see. I was like, I'm not gonna get it at all, but let's see
Mhm.
what happens. And and then like a few months into it, you get frickin' some dude fucking people stuffing their face with French fries and cheeseburgers. Like, if you get it, you can get this, you
Right.
get
We'll
this
give you
and
free
this. And
Shake Shack.
I'm just like, that's
Here's your
disgusting.
Krispy Kreme donuts. Well, and you know, the funny thing is, I was watching this, like, unfold before they ever did, like, the emergency use authorization. And I'm, like, online watching, like, the meetings at the FDA between the FDA and Pfizer and whatever, and all these things kept coming up that these are potential side effects, these are potential problems that we could see, and the list was literally longer than my leg. It was huge. And they're like, even the myocarditis in children was on those early conversations before it was ever approved for the emergency use. And they're like, "Oh, well, there's been instances of that in your clinical trials." "Oh, it's okay. It's probably a rare thing and it will never happen. So, rubber stamp, pass it through." And then it was like lies from the government that oh, it was mandated and it's completely approved and whatever. And I'm like, no, it's not. It is not, and that is why it never hit the federal vaccine schedule because it was an emergency use. It was
Mhm.
not federally approved. And pushing that through and pushing like hydroxychloroquine and all of that stuff on the back burner was because and that was very smart marketing on their part, right? Pfizer and stuff. Because that's how they were able to make billions of dollars because hydroxychloroquine has been around a really long time. It's super cheap, has lots of different uses. And if that would have been a quote approved treatment to use or to prescribe, they never could have got an emergency use authorization on that vaccination. But in Anthony
Oh.
Fauci's own words, when SARS came through, and that's still back when I was nursing, um, he made the rounds on TV and was like, "Oh, hydroxychloroquine is the treatment, and this is what we use." Guess what? SARS and COVID are the same thing. It's the exact same thing.
Mhm.
And it's like, "Oh, it's approved then, but it's not approved now." That's because he owns stock in Merck. Mm. Mhm. So, yeah, I'm pushing the remdesivir because he had stake again in the company that manufactured remdesivir. And then
Of course.
look at all the deaths and stuff that happened, because of remdesivir, and then it was like, "Oh, well, shoot, maybe we should pull this off the market." But here's a little Twinkie of information. All throughout history, they will have a medication, like antibiotics or whatever. They'll prescribe them, and then they'll go, "Oh, man, the safety, data that's coming in off of this, you know, it's looking terrible." And so they'll pull it off the market, and then they rebrand it under another name, change, like, one polymer in the makeup, and put it right back out on the market with the exact same shit.
That's
just a
ridiculous.
different name. And they literally do it all the time with heart medications, antibiotics, literally any and every kind of drug. So remdesivir, metronidazole, literally anything that they pull off the market, it will come back under something else.
No shit.
No shit.
God damn. I don't like
Big
that.
business being in pharma, and
That's what I hear.
one of the most interesting things is like the cycle that the allergy medicine went through, and it was like Claritin, and then it was called something else, like I don't know, Singular, and then there was something else, Zizol or something, and they're literally all the same makeup.
Yeah.
It's literally all the same thing, and they're like, "Oh, well, it doesn't have the polymer in it that's supposed to make you sleepy." But that was baloney too, because patients were still, like, ungodly sleepy every time they took an allergy pill. Heart medication, the exact same thing, and it's like, pull it off the market for safety issues because, it damages your liver, or, it causes plaque buildup in your arteries or whatever, and so they take it off, they rename it, and put it right back out.
That's ridiculous.
Mhm.
That's ridiculous. You know, mod big pharma is they make money off of you being sick.
devil.
So why the fuck would they want you to get better, basically,
They
is
don't.
where I'm gonna go.
Mhm.
And you know, there's a lot of herbs and
Mhm.
plants out there that do exactly the same
Mhm,
things, or
and
they
better.
fix there's
And
pain
don't damage your
relievers.
organs.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, if you can school yourself on that stuff, create that stuff, grow it, then you'll never need any
Right.
pharmaceuticals,
Right.
mostly.
Yeah, and you
And
can
we didn't see. I feel like it from my looking into things in the history. You didn't really see these mass sicknesses or viruses, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
until people started being corralled into cities and being inside.
Correct. Yep.
There's a big mass amount of people, and then what happens? All of a sudden, they're getting sick, like the
Mhm.
Black Plague in London. What was happening? There was houses on top of houses on top of houses,
Right.
and people everywhere. They didn't know what to do with their trash. They were just throwing shit everywhere, fucking wherever the fuck they wanted back then.
Mhm, and then
And
you have that same problem um, with mold outbreaks that have happened, like, through the United States and whatever, and it's like people, stay inside and, we've got TV and video games and all of this stuff, so we spend all this time inside, and then, when you breathe, you let moisture droplets out of your mouth, plus you've got plumbing and, everything else in your house, and so mold builds up, and then you stay in your house, and then your mold exposure is crazy, and so then you have symptoms of, like, massive allergies, what the doctors call hay fever, or, you have all these respiratory illnesses, you have, digestive issues and stuff, and it is literally because of the mold in your house, in your vent systems, the whole 9 yards, instead of people spending time outdoors.
yeah, yeah. Uh, I I will say it until I'm blue in the face. Just spend some time outside. That's
Mhm.
all I gotta say. Like even when relaxing, and especially when it's nice out, in my hammock reading a book or something like that, and that's outside.
I go
Take your shoes
outside
off.
even in the winter. I will
Yes.
literally put on a snowsuit and go sit outside, even though it's freezing cold, because I need that, like, fresh air, and people are like, "You're insane. It's, like, 20 below 0," and I'm like, "I know. I can't stay out here super long, but, bundle up because I need that fresh air in my lungs. I need to be outside. We're not meant to
People
house.
Right, exactly. And I'll randomly like pause and like and this is even when it's nice out too, but even when it's cold out and I'll pause and and it's almost like I'm zoning out. And I don't even sometimes I'm not even aware that I'm doing it. I'll just
Mhm.
like stare at something. I'll be standing outside and friggin' the kids are like, "What's happening?" I'm like,
I'm looking at you
I don't
going,
know,
"Are you
breathing."
alright, dude?"
And I just think that that's my body being like, "Hold on a second, let's breathe this shit in for
That's
a little bit."
exactly what it is, yep. And that's
So,
I call that my grounding, right? And so,
mhm.
like, I'll have times like that where I'll sit outside and I'll just, like, stare off. It looks like I'm staring off into space or whatever, but I'm actually, like, taking in the sounds and the smells and all of that stuff, so it's good for you.
My favorite thing is to sit on my porch and watch the birds.
Mhm. We have, hummingbirds that will
Nice.
come 'cause, we have this big carport that I sit in, and we have these hummingbirds that will come, and they'll literally stop in front of my face and just flutter and, like, stare at me until I talk to them, and then they'll fly away, and then other ones will come back and stuff. We have a skunk family. We have possums,
Okay.
we have literally all kinds of stuff that comes around here all the time. I will talk to all of them just because, I don't know. We had a
Because
white
you're Snow White?
Yes. We had a white skunk. You ever seen an all white skunk?
I have not,
It
no.
is the coolest thing. I thought my husband was, like, joking with me, and I'm like, "There was not a white skunk." I'm like, "There is no such thing," and he's like, "I swear to God." He's like, "Walked right in front of me this morning." And I was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's probably never gonna see it again." And I saw it the next day, and I was like, "What?" And it has, you know how, like, some skunks, they look like, if you see pictures, it looks like their fur would be kinda rough or something? This
Yeah.
had, like, this majestic, like, flowing hair that looked, like, so soft, and I was like, "That is the coolest thing I've ever seen." Who knew there were white skunks? But there certainly are, and we have one at our house. Of course, along with the other kinds of skunks too, but yeah. We do have a possum that takes my grill apart every single night.
It's
He takes the burners out, he takes the burner pan out, he literally gets up in the grill, he tears the whole thing apart every night, and every day if I go to grill out, I have to put the grill back together.
That's
Mhm.
fucking hilarious.
Yep.
I'm glad I don't have that problem because
Mhm.
I would get annoyed so bad.
Yeah, it's the whole, interesting wildlife thing. I mean, we've had beavers in our yard before, we've had always deer, there's always deer,
Mm.
eagles, hawks, you name it,
I love it.
armadillos, yeah.
Nice. Nice.
So
That is cool. I kinda wanna live there now, you
Mhm.
know?
I
You're
love it
enticing
here.
me to
It's a beautiful state to live in as long as you
Mhm.
don't live in one of the big cities. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, city anywhere
Mhm.
is a hard pass for me,
I'm like,
no matter where it is.
if I'm not in the country, I want to be in a very small town. You know,
Yes.
like that
Same.
I like that small town life or whatever, and people are super friendly and all of that stuff. I never ever want to live in another big city ever. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Me neither.
Don't
Me
like
neither. I refuse. I refuse. But, that's probably all the time that I have for tonight. I'm definitely gonna have to have you back on for sure, so we'll have to schedule something soon.
Sure.
Um, but if you don't mind, Janet, just letting everybody know one more time who you are and where they can find you.
Absolutely. You can find Deplorable Nation Podcast anywhere that you listen to podcasts. You can also find my podcast video style on Rumble, exclusively on Rumble. You can find me on Instagram at Deplorable Janet. You can find me on Twitter at No Janet, KNOW. And that is it.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you for being here. It means a lot to me.
Well,
if I
thank
didn't
you
have,
for having me again.
yeah, yeah. And we'll have to do it again because I feel like I could have talked to you for another like 2 hours probably, to be honest with you. But then I wouldn't have gotten any sleep tonight.
That is true. That is true. And yes, absolutely. Anytime, I would be honored to come back and have a chat with you. And I feel the same. You're very easy to talk to, and we get along well. So there
Yes,
you go.
yes,
So
yes,
thank you
ma'am.
again for having me.
Yes. Thank you. It means, like I said, it means a lot. If I didn't have people like you to talk to, I'd just be talking to myself. Not that I wouldn't do it. It probably just wouldn't be as
Get
entertaining.
really good answers that way sometimes. Mhm.
Well, I'll know the answers. But that's the show, everybody. Please check out Janet. She's a lovely lady, as you have heard tonight. Now, if you disagree with anything that has been said tonight, that's totally fine. I still
Mhm.
love you anyway.
Yep.
Just know that. But please like, follow, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. Leave a rating or review if you feel so inclined to do so. Other than that, everybody, question everything and stay weird.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky. When the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day, make a wish.